Welcome to the Rethink Vertical podcast, where we cut through the hype. This podcast brings you emerging aviation technology insight without the fluff, so you know where the industry is today to shape the future of tomorrow. Welcome to the Rethink Vertical podcast. Today's episode is sponsored by the UAS Cluster Initiative. Today I sat down with Guillaume Catry, CEO of WindShape, as well as the company's COO, Nicolas Bosson. We had an opportunity to talk about WindShape's revolutionary UAS testing equipment manufactured in Geneva, Switzerland, as well as their new industry test center concept coming soon to the US. So after the conversation, you want to learn more about WindShape, you can check them out at www.windshape.com. Hope you enjoy the episode. But good morning, Guillaume and Nico. Welcome to the Rethink Vertical podcast. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you, Craig. It's a pleasure to be here on the podcast with you.
Yeah. Excited about this conversation. I know us as a group have had a chance to chat pretty significantly over the last couple months. And so it's just really great that you're joining us for the podcast today. I did want to start off for our viewers to talk a little bit about WindShape, sort of get some background so everybody knows where you guys are coming from. So Guillaume, if you want to start, can you kind of share what's been going on with WindShape, how WindShape came about? And I know you guys have some really interesting technology and kind of testing process for USA platforms. So be interested to hear a little bit about it.
Yeah, well, we are a company that is active in the field of testing drones. So we really develop and provide solutions for the industry to better test and certify, validate drone products, from the product to the operations. So this is really the core mission, the goals of the company. And we started some years ago with the development of a technology that really makes it possible in a lab to recreate any kind of test environment for simulating and testing drones in various weather conditions with winds and etc. So that's really the basics of the mission for WindShape, really.
Yeah. I think that's an important concept about, just the technology that's going to be required for, some certifying some of these systems. And so just a little bit more, how did, whether this is Nico or Guillaume question, how did you guys find yourselves in the position to start this company? Like, how did this all come about?
Yeah, well, we were, I was personally, working in a laboratory. WindShape is a company that started in Geneva, Switzerland, and I was an assistant at the University of Applied Science in Geneva, working for Professor Flavio Nocca. And my goal, my project was to develop a drone. And Flavio, very quickly in the process, he told me, "Listen, Guillaume, you should really, before we make this drone, we should, develop the tools and equipment that we need to be able to test the drones in the lab here and make drones better than the others," right? It was really for us, the goal was to create something that makes us capable of making better drones through testing. And so it started like this, and a year later, we had actually a concept of a multi-fan wind generator. So you have to imagine a system with tiny fans, and we basically stack these fans together. And because we're able to tune the fans to different regimes, all of them can run at a different speed. We can control the flow conditions, and generate variable wind profiles. So it was really a very small prototype that we had in the lab. And I think we were lucky because at the time Flavio had a very good connection with Caltech in California, and Flavio simply, started to talk about this project and this product and this project. And at Caltech at this time, they had, it was the perfect timing because they just raised, I think, several millions to just build a new lab for drones. And they told us, yeah, we want this to be the centerpiece of our lab for next year. So that's literally how it started. We made a company based on this early project. And then after, we're lucky to have customers after customers that literally paid for the development of the product. So that was sort of a good timing and certainly a good product and a good opportunity, but also a very good timing for us to develop this company.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. A lot of the startup founders that I chat with that have been successful, and I think this is a common theme, is they were doing a thing, they found a problem with the process of the system, and they said, we need to fix this. And so a company was born rather than just trying to create something and then finding a problem to solve. You guys followed that same path. So I think it's there was already something you're trying to fix, and you found a way to fix it. So I think I think it bodes well for the future of the company and kind of the progress you guys are and the traction you guys are getting right now. So yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah. And to be honest, at the time we didn't know that testing was that the testing, the lack of testing, etc., was going to be or would become such a problem in industry. And at the time where we developed this product in the lab, it was literally just a lab equipment or lab tool, right? It was certainly not supposed to become something that has the potential to help the industry with testing, validation, and certification. Yeah.
Right. That kind of leads into this concept of you mentioned the challenge of certifying systems or specific processes and the data that some of these regulatory agencies are going to need. Obviously, at Droneport Network, we spend a lot of time thinking about certification of systems and processes, right? Because these platforms, these UAS platforms, are going to have to operate in a system, and the system is heavily regulated, and so there are agencies that will require a minimum amount of data and proof that these systems are safe. So I think that's something we think a lot about, and I think it's a challenge that you at WindShape are trying to tackle. Just kind of curious, and this could be from either one of you, why is this such a big problem, and why is it one that has to be tackled? Why can't the industry just go out, create good technology, and then just operate in a system, scale, build their customer base? Like, why is this such an issue?
Yeah. So maybe, the first thing here is that we have to identify who are the players. And the industry is, you said it, full of great technical products. And but what we see is that we have, tech companies that are putting something in the sky. So these tech companies have to become, somewhere in the process, they have to become aircraft manufacturers in the sense that they need to comply with the regulations. And even though these regulations are not necessarily clear right now, there's a certain level of maturity that is required for this company to be able to fly their product, to fly their drones in a safe environment. So that's the first thing. And then why is it hard for them to validate, test, and certify their product? Well, the first thing is that there's no good environment for doing testing, and by good I mean it's not easy for drone manufacturers, drone developers to have a repeatable test environment. By repeatable, I mean a place where you can obtain always the same conditions, the same test conditions. So most drone manufacturers simply go outdoors and they test their drones by doing some flight testing. That's the natural way of doing things. The problem with these kind of testing is that the testing that you're doing today, you're going to get some results, and you're going to analyze these results, make some conclusions, maybe modify the design of your drone. You're going to say, okay, I identified that the drone was vibrating or something, right? I can see that in the data. You change something to the design, you go test the next day, and you'll see that there's no more vibration. But the important thing is that you'll never be able to say there's no more vibration because I made a good change to the drone, to the design, or was it because of the weather, right? The weather have changed, but I don't know to what extent. So that's very important. We're not able to control the environment in the outside, in the outdoors, to make sure that we have the right test conditions that we need to test the drones, and we're not able to have repeatable test conditions. So those are the two critical aspects. And then after, even though you're testing this way, it's very hard to collect quality data. And by that, I mean that your drone is flying far away from the observer, which means that you don't have necessarily eye control on the drone. You don't have the chance to have instruments that get data from the drone, external instruments, I mean. Whereas if you're in a lab environment, you have all of that. You have the controllability, the repeatability, and you have access to all these tools that you can use to collect and measure and get, trustable data that then you can use to communicate with the regulators and literally say, look, I've done this and that test, and here are the results. And that's
Right.
that's how we see the problem.
Yeah. No, and I think we've all talked about this before. You look at other industries and the systems that had to be set up, like traditional aviation, right? There's a rigid testing process. There's specific data that they need for type certification. There's the auto industry, right? All these industries have very well-defined testing processes that are repeatable, right? That they can prove to those, even if there's not a heavy regulatory oversight side. There's always the safety side, right? They've also got to prove it to the regulatory agencies, but they also have to prove to the public, which is, we haven't even gotten there yet, right? Proving to the public that it's safe. And the only way you can do that is the data is one thing, but the company, trusting the data enough to know they can put these products out into market and they're not going to fall out of the sky and kill people, right? Ultimately, that's what the public wants to be able to trust. And so these drone companies, they need to have faith that their data is proving that to them, and that they're not walking into, a catastrophic failure and a lawsuit and into their company, right, at some point. And their investors want to know the same thing. So I guess let's talk, Nico, do you want to share a little bit about, I know we've talked about the sort of test center concept. I think Guillaume's sort of leading into it, and how do you make things repeatable? You want to kind of just talk through what that piece of your future business model looks like for WindShape?
Yes, absolutely. So as Guillaume mentioned, the company started with an idea that quickly became a product. We've been manufacturing and selling this product around the world for 4 or 5 years now. And what we noticed is that most drone companies are still startups. They are sometimes not big enough to actually purchase and have the use of such big pieces of equipment that we provide. So instead of selling them equipment, we'd like to sell them service. We are trying to develop our solution as a service. We'd like to do that both in the US and in Europe. The goal is to cover FAA regulation in the US and EASA regulation in Europe. And that's what brought us in the US about 2 years ago. We raised a little bit of money, and we are now developing this service branch in Tulsa to have our first test center open as soon as possible.
Yeah, that's really exciting. Yeah, go ahead, Guillaume. Sorry, I didn't want to jump in there.
So no, you have to imagine that it's a full lab, with a lot of equipment, a lot of instruments. So for drone manufacturers, and sometimes they really consider purchasing this equipment, but it's literally integrating in their facility, integrating a full new equipment, technological equipment, and they have to hire people to make it, to operate it. And that's sort of complicated to maintain, and etc. So we found that by talking with the industry that running that offering this solution as a service would definitely make more sense. And the also added value here is that the technology of being able to create the test conditions is one thing, but then what are the test conditions that you need to certify this aspect of the drone? And that's the whole added value that we also bring. It's literally all the expertise and everything that you need to not only do testing, but also get the right means of compliance and what you actually need to communicate the result that you need to communicate with the FAA or with the EASA in Europe. Yeah. So that's what I mean here is that we play this role of being the third party validating the aircraft. In that sense, it's very complicated for a drone manufacturers to do it all internally, right? So it's often better to have a third party to do the testing and the validation.
Yeah, this test center that we are hoping to open soon in the US will have many capabilities, not only wind and weather, but we have climate chambers to generate cold conditions. The goal is really to offer the possibility to test in any kind of condition that a drone will have to fly in during its real life outdoors, all in one facility. We hope to also be able to use the flight corridor that Tulsa is currently developing. So we can fly drones indoors first, making sure everything's fine, testing things like EMC compliance, resistance to wind, rain, other factors, and then bring the drone outside and actually fly it in a safe, controlled outdoor environment as well.
Yeah, no, it's super exciting that I know that this concept of developing a U.S. test site has been a long process for you guys, and so yeah, I mean, it's super exciting that you guys have made or are making the move and to set up that test site in Tulsa. So I don't know, Guillaume, you want to talk a little bit about like what you've learned about maybe that northern Oklahoma Tulsa ecosystem that was appealing about setting up a test site to sort of set up that service model for you guys?
Yeah, sure. So maybe the first thing that we underestimated is, well, I think it was a few years ago we started to think about, making this move to open a test site and open different labs. And I think one of the questions that we underestimated was to find an existing hangar that could host this facility or these labs. And that's the first thing that we're happy about the region of northern Oklahoma, in Tulsa in particular, is that we were able to find the right hangar. So that's what literally attracted us in the first place in the region. And then in just about 2 months of time, we were able to get to understand how the ecosystem is working, and it's now very clear to us that it's a region that is very focused on innovation and in making possible to fly drones in corridors and really trying to enable the whole industry. So we find that our development, our service center is a very great fit for the region. But I think more importantly, it works very well together with the region. So I think, good fit. And again, I guess it's also a very good timing because a lot of work has been done in this region to develop this corridor, to develop this initiative, and now we have a very good awareness both at the economical and political levels in the region that really makes it an attractive region for the drone industry to develop.
Yeah, it's I think the Skyway 36 project's very exciting, and Nico, I don't know if you want to share a little bit about. I know that the Skyway 36 project is a Osage Nation sort of vision that they've had with the Tulsa ecosystem and also partnering with OSU. So I don't know what was most surprising about sort of that relationship and kind of everybody's working together to kind of build the ecosystem.
Yeah, we are super happy to actually work with them. We are from Europe. We are not very familiar with Native American tribes. It's the first time we actually speak to them, and it was a very, very good surprise. They have the will to make things move. They are super interested in what is going to be done in the drone industry, especially here at Skyway 36. So it's overall a very, very good surprise. Actually, the time we spent so far in Tulsa, we saw that everyone was kind of working together, that is the tribe, but the state as well, to move things towards in the same direction. And I think that's what really surprised us in a very good way in Tulsa, this kind of tendency to have different entities working together very, very well. And so far it's been really a good experience, I have to say.
Yeah, great. I did have maybe we can end this with this question. We do have quite a few investors and startup founders that listen to the podcast. So I always like to ask, if there was, through your process, years of building this company, and either one of you can take this question. What is something that you've learned, maybe that you wish you would have done a little bit different? And if you could turn back the clock a little bit, maybe you would have done something. Taking a slightly different path or different angle. Always curious to hear as you look back, what's something you would have changed.
Nothing. We are perfect since the beginning.
Right.
Anything. No, that's a good question. Guillaume and myself, it's the first time we create a startup. It's a new world for us, so we did make some mistakes, of course. What would be the biggest one? maybe the fact that the team started with engineers. We had to develop the product. We had a customer from the very beginning. It had to happen fast. So having engineers was a great asset. But then when the company started growing, we kind of underestimated the need for sales and marketing. So something I would do differently is invest a little bit more in that field as well, not only the technical aspect, but all the rest that goes around with the business. That is actually why we are raising money at the moment. It's to grow the company to a next level, both for the product branch and for the service branch. The goal is to hire a proper sales team, a marketing team, to simply grow to the next level and boost the production. So I think that would be my something I would do differently. Invest sooner in sales and marketing and not only in the technical aspect.
Yeah, a really good answer. One that I've heard from other founders before, especially technical founders, is you don't realize how much you need that sort of spotlight on your company and marketing side. You're so focused on the technical development, which is the core of the system, but the reality is you need customers, and so sooner rather than later is always it's good to be thinking about that. So I appreciate you providing that feedback. I don't know if Guillaume, what do you? I feel like you've got something too, so I'll open it up for you.
No. I just wanted to add this this quote that I heard somewhere in Switzerland, in the startup space, that they say that they never see startup failing because of tech in Switzerland. It's literally always failing for something else than tech. I mean, it's not necessarily only for Switzerland, but I'm sure everywhere in the tech industry we have probably a lot of failures are due to the problems that we were able to avoid because I think we were able to be agile and to tackle all kind of challenges as a team. But that's a good point, Nico. And moving maybe faster and faster to the service and developing these testing process and means of compliance earlier would have been, I think, also a good thing to do, because now I think it's a good timing. We have, again, going back to the awareness of the industry. Now, I think everybody acknowledges that there's a big problem to solve with respect to testing and certification. But we were aware of that probably a bit before the industry, and we didn't move quickly enough. I think, to my opinion, we could have been in a better position right now with probably more test protocols and means of compliance ready for exactly when the industry needs it. So we're going to try to be as quick as possible to have them ready. And again, this test center that we've been talking about at Skyway 36 in Tulsa should be open by, within. I think we're talking about 8 to 12 months for grand opening, and that's going to be, I think, game changing for the industry if we can bring all these capabilities for the drone manufacturers to actually make the step from what I always say is making the step from the demonstration flights to the operations, right? So that's what we hope we can really make as a different, the difference we can make in this industry.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a key point. That transition from pilot cases to operational scalable is something that is a gap that you guys are trying to help them bridge. And I think, from what I'm hearing in the industry, everybody's super excited about the opportunity and possibility to be able to set up repeatable test cases. And we're excited about the move and the new test site, and more to come on that, I'm sure, in the future. It's been great to chat with both of you. I think the listeners and viewers will be, hopefully they'll get excited too about everything that's going on with WindShape, and start to follow kind of all the, the press releases, and then looking forward to that future date for the ribbon cutting and the opening of the test center, and they can get themselves in line for testing and working closely with both EASA and FAA and other regulatory agencies. It'd be really interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, well, thank you. That was great. Great to be on the podcast, Craig. It was a pleasure.
Yeah. If you'd like to be a part of the UAS Cluster Initiative community and get access to more of our content, check us out at www.uascluster.com.